Continuing this series' expanded look at what the Age of the Ring mod provides in its factions, both those original to AOTR and expanded ones from vanilla ROTWK, it's worth noting up front again that these videos are not guides, merely faction highlights so you can see at a glance what some of the more interesting changes are, or all new features are. Needless to say, this is not an exhaustive demonstration or compendium of changes. Something important to note up front, though. In this series, sometimes you'll see oddities like abilities and powers instantly refreshing, or resource structures that produce insanely high resources. This is just a product of the mod's testing mode, which lets you change these values in-game for testing purposes, or demonstration purposes as in this series. So these changes should not be seen as accurately representing the mod and how it actually plays. In the last episode, we took a good look at AOTR's Misty Mountains faction, a reimagining of vanilla goblins. In this final episode of the Extended Edition, you'll see a faction incredibly different from the rest due to an unusual gameplay style. But let's take one last look at the art first. The game also touts unique mechanics I've yet to see anywhere else. To give the best example I know of, within this roster of factions is one I've not seen anyone else do in the BFME modding world, Dol Guldur. This is a faction unlike any I've ever seen in BFME. As you might expect from something based off the home of someone calling himself the Necromancer, the focus of this faction is the world of the undead. This faction's mechanics reflect this in the feature to transform your own or your enemy's killed units into undead beings like wraiths or animated skeletons. It's a lot of fun to go in for the kill and watch as your enemy's army slowly rises from the dead to turn against him, adding to your army of walking dead. Another unique feature is the Necromancer's dark magic. Like a blight upon the land, all structures of the faction put forth this magic, which buffs most units and heals them. But outside of this narrow area, any units who have this taint of slow decay upon them begin to steadily lose health. Notice the green glow signifying the slow decay has started. This forces you to rapidly expand the faction's base and to gain map control, especially through its ruined towers, which produces the widest area of influence for this magic. These towers are automatically stealthed in trees to better protect them, making the faction feel that much more like its insidious nature as its invisible evil spreads across Middle-earth. This is the primary way of spreading the magic, but not the only way, as will be seen later. And to facilitate fast-forward bases, the towers also recruit more builders. But these are just the most notable features of this incredible faction. In addition to the unique spam units, they do have advanced units, such as the Ravagers, very hard-hitting infantry which can easily turn the tide just from their knockback ability alone. It's a ton of fun to go guns blazing into an enemy army as they all keep flipping over backwards. Coming automatically equipped with high health and armor, they are that much harder to kill when attacking structures, gaining health per hit, making enemy defensive structures somewhat null. And the Tomb Guards gain armor buffs from the death of each member of a battalion, making for an incredible team-up for these two units alone. The spider layer unlocks a great defensive ability for most buildings called infestation, causing those structures to send out little spiders to defend the base.
I see a thin, pale creature hopping about.
This goes really well with your resource structures especially, which come with a defense of Broken Rabble at level 2. This infestation ability also works well with other base defenses, as will be seen shortly, making Dol Guldur one of the leading factions in terms of turtling. The spider layer is very similar to what it is with Vanilla's goblins, producing spiderlings but also giant spiders of Mirkwood. The spiderlings, however, are now light cavalry units, making them some of the fastest cavalry in the game by default, and they can slow down enemy cavalry trying to escape. Extremely tricky to counter, especially given their poison ability. You can see how even these Tier 1 cavalry units can make short work of the 6 battalions of fully upgraded Tier 3 March Wardens.
A fool contests our might.
Whereas the giant spiders are melee siege units doing impressive structure damage. And because they can tunnel, this means they can make some of the most devastating surprise attacks en masse to wreck a base. The unfortunate aspect of this strategy, though, is that you cannot select a group of them and have them all tunnel at the same time. Gotta love a 20-year-old engine, so hotkeys are your friend here. These 2 spider units are some of the only units to have inoculation, making them immune to slow decay and thus encouraging a more free playstyle. But these are not the only siege units for the faction. The developers decided to incorporate the tragic Endwives into this faction. A mystery as to what exactly happened to them in the books and films, the story of this faction answers that. They were taken and corrupted by the Dark Lord. With them is another unique mechanic. They can reproduce. When they die, they leave behind a seed that, if not destroyed, will regrow a corrupted Endwife. They can also boost your economy by 30%. From their structure is recruited the Blighted Trappers, which are woodmen ensnared by the corrupting fungus of Mirkwood infecting them through parasitic spores. These Tier 2 archer units throw spears, deal great poison and structure damage, have a strong debuff per hit, and reduce vision and attack range, making them incredible counters to enemy archer strategies. Watch as they go toe-to-toe with some of the best archers in the game, reducing their vision and attack range so much they barely have time to fight back before they're dealt too much damage. The Spire of Sorcery is an incredible structure in that it's both a defensive structure and one which recruits 2 powerful heroic units. As a defensive structure, it produces a blight that does progressive damage in a wide radius. Enemy units killed by it turn into wraiths.
What manner of
It also unlocks the Necromancy ability for your spear and archer spam units, turning them into undead. These These units are not affected by slow decay, meaning they're a great way to have an army that gets around that mechanic, making for some very aggressive gameplay, especially considering they can turn enemies into undead. However, these units are incredibly weak but have very fast attacks to more than compensate for that loss, and they have great speed for maneuverability. Even the elite tier 3 March Wardens fully upgraded at level 3 stand no chance. And watch how fast they heal up. This obviously adds to their aggressive playstyle, as you can quickly hide them somewhere for a short time before putting them back in the fight. But back to the Spires of Sorcery. If you have a string of these along key areas of your base, this magic damage is coupled with the Infestation ability, and these can be combined with the Restless Barrow's defensive structures, with their Skeleton Warriors, and Ruined Towers, making Dol Guldur a very well protected faction indeed.
It seems we are not wanted here.
And as if that weren't enough, throw into the mix the fortress defenses, such as debuffing units on top of summoning skeleton warriors, all on top of yet another blight power and being able to take control of enemy units.
We are under siege.
The heroic units it recruits are the Armored Castellans and the Harbingers of Shadow. The Castellans are basically suits of armor possessed by an evil spirit, which can buff the armor of nearby structures while poisoning and debuffing surrounding enemies. They can make themselves immune to damage for a long time, keeping them on the field that much longer in times of need, and they can blast back surrounding enemies. This is one of the few units which can keep back slow decay, making them essential for a forward-moving army.
It seems we are not wanted here.
Watch as they go into their damage immunity mode, and the enemy immediately stops attacking. Great way to wait for your reinforcements. The Harbingers can make short work of structures while also summoning wraiths around them, debuffing enemies along the way for one of the most fearsome heroic units. More on them in a minute. The Restless Barrow defensive structure produces a powerful unit, Unburied Wights. Taken straight out of the books when the Hobbits enter the Barrow Downs after leaving the Shire, these units debuff enemies and heal themselves with every hit, and at level 3 they turn into glass cannons, doing massive damage while sacrificing themselves. And like the Entwives, they leave behind a little present when they die, which can recreate more of them.
We are under attack. Manner of fool contests our light. We are under attack.
Touching on the spellbook just briefly, we come to an original AOTR creation, the Gwanthour. A corrupted ancient spirit of the forest possessing a great beast-like form, this operates very much like vanilla Angmar's Shade of Wolf, devouring enemies and moving very fast, but this buffs itself and can instantly destroy structures.
It seems we are acquainted here.
And the other 25 PP power, the gift of the Necromancer, is an army destroyer, transforming units both friend and foe into wraiths, so be careful how you use this one. But there is another unique feature I've not seen before, a power to stealth a large section of the base. No other faction can do this, not even Lothlorien. So check out this video in my stealth series to see more great details. It's easily one of the coolest overhauls of AOTR. And the Wither power does strong damage to structures, which can be stacked with the Harbinger's structure damage for a devastating combo. Dol Guldur's hero roster is a pretty interesting one, and not to be underestimated. You have the cheap early game hero Thrain the Broken, Thorin Oakenshield's own father. Lost in shadow under the Dark Lord after his Ring of Power was taken from him, he is a dwarf gone mad. He is stealthy and is an early game hero buffing out broken rabble, granting great XP gains so they can quickly reach level 2 to become an undead army. Crimpool the Torturer is a hero killer and one tasked with retrieving the Rings of Power, so does extra damage against Gandalf, Galadriel, and Elrond. Kargast the Barrow Lord is the risen body of Marwini, a prince of Rovanion from the books. He is the perfect hero for a Risen Dead strategy as you transform your spam units into these undead warriors to swarm your enemy at great speed. A great hero to be used alongside Thrain. Sanathra is, as one would expect, a great complement to a spider strategy, buffing nearby spiders while also slowing enemy units down, preventing their escape as you overwhelm them. She is in many ways like Vanilla Goblin's Shelob, also able to cross impassable terrain and tunnel anywhere on the map, but Sanathra gains resources per hit on structures, giving you more incentive to use her in stealthy ways to keep harassing the enemy. Khamul is one of the Nazgul who was sent by Sauron to Dol Guldur in the books, and of course operates very much like them, debuffing units and dealing progressive AoE damage. But this one can also buff ally units and protects them against magic and elemental damage, a great twist on the Black Riders. And finally, the Necromancer himself. Sauron's Geist whilst hiding in Dol Guldur, the Necromancer is powerful, especially for his low price. Keeping slow decay from affecting your units, he's essential when pushing out your army, dealing great splash damage per hit, summoning wolves and the dead, and when he needs to escape from danger, he can become incorporeal. Coupled with Kargast the Barrow Lord, the Necromancer can be a true nightmare, leading an undead army with incredible effect. The Necromancer's Abhorred Dread ability has a decently fast cooldown that he can cast on his enemies not long after summoning the dead from barrows. Not a foe to be trifled with. And to flee or otherwise get from point A to B, the incorporeal ability cannot be beaten. As you've seen, Dol Guldur is heavily influenced by unique mechanics found nowhere else to make for one of the coolest factions to grace BFME, worth the price of entry alone for anyone not familiar with the mod. And this wraps up this extended edition of What is the Age of the Ring mod. If you want to see a great breakdown like this series of how the mod overhauled other features of vanilla, such as the attribute modifiers, stealth, the fire mechanic, and especially the War of the Ring mode, I have each of those as their own separate series. Age of the Ring does it all, baby. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into this great mod.